The strong U.S. jobs report for October demonstrates why the Federal Reserve needs to keep raising interest rates higher than previously forecasted in order to keep inflation under control. Exactly, so the U.S. jobs report just came out today, and U.S. payrolls grew by 261,000 in October. Unemployment rate rises to 3.7% versus the expected 3.6%, and the average hourly earnings month over month was plus 0.4% versus the 0.3% expected, and the average hourly earnings year over year came out just as expected at 4.7%. So the US economy added more jobs than expected in October because they expected 195,000 and we got 261. Yahoo Finance goes, and I quote, "Even as the Federal Reserve pressed on with central bank's most aggressive monetary tightening campaign in decades." So that is correct. This does technically show the slowdown isn't occurring at the rate we want it to, which could cause the Fed to actually raise rates by a lot more going forward, which could potentially just crash the market even further, which is what we were expecting with the overlaid chart of '08. However, the wages and salary growth is heading back down to zero, which could be a positive sign that the market actually found a bottom and will potentially have a rebound. Half of the Fed says one thing, half of the Fed says another, half of the data shows one thing, half of the data shows another. But what I can tell you is that it's never a terrible time to invest in the S&P 500. I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If you are new, my name is Lottery Stock. Today we are going to be going over some DD and the latest news and reports that will cover the overall market, central banks, and what's happening with AMC and GameStop. So if it sounds like something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button if you are new or you are a reoccurring viewer, because I know 70% of people who come back to my channel don't actually subscribe because I see it in the analytics, so that's nuts. But make sure to hit that like button. It is free. Let's get into the video. Major hedge funds are warning of something worse than inflation. A lot of larger entities or big players or heavy cash players are warning that this is going to be worse than 2008 and that it's not really over and we didn't find a bottom. And Senator Thomas Carper, who sits on the Senate Finance Committee, just reported a new massive position in an ETF that shorts US-based companies. Again, another large player just went short with a large position against US companies. He's indirectly shorting Snow, Dash, DDOG, CCL, AFRM, BMBL, ZS, WS, along many others. The ETF is called HDGE. Now, Cinemark lost narrows despite challenge from lack of fall releases. Movie theater giant Cinemark continued to improve its losses in the third quarter, reporting a net loss of $24.5 million in the 3 months ended September 30th, 2021. Compared to a net loss of $77.8 million a year earlier. Revenue increased to $650.4 million, up from $434.8 million in the third quarter of 2021. Adjusted earnings before interest rates, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, EBITDA, reached $99.5 million compared with $44.3 million a year earlier. Admission revenue was $324 million and concession revenue was $253. The reason I'm bringing this up is because Cinemark is a large competitor. It is another movie theater chain, and they're actually expecting losses to narrow and essentially start going cash flow positive, which you could kind of see the same thing correlate over to AMC, hopefully. Speaking of AMC and going cash flow positive, we have earnings in 4 days. So we have an earnings call for AMC in 4 days. And while we're touching on AMC, I wanted to touch on this letter somebody got on APE from the SEC. But before we do that, a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Moomoo. They are allowing me to give each of you guys a $10 cash coupon plus up to 15 free stocks for signing up and depositing $1, or even signing up and depositing a penny. Each of these stocks are valued up to $2,000 per share, and people get on average between $70 to $250, but you can make more than that. It is free money. It takes 5 minutes out of your day, and you probably won't even make as much working a normal job. So make sure to do that. Link will be pinned in the top of comments. Let's get back into the video. This is the final response to your October 5th, 2022 request for the information regarding a security under the ticker APE that had 43 million failure to delivers on the first day of trading, which broker traded this particular security without having low located them from the transfer agent. Access is denied to the fails to deliver data that is responsive to your request. This data is being withheld under 5 USC 522B for exemption of the 4 FOIA protects trade secrets and commercial or financial information obtained from a person that is privileged or confidential. Please be advised that I have considered the foreseeable harm standard in preparing this response. I am the deciding official with the regard to this determination. You have the right to appeal my decision to the SEC's General Counsel, yada yada yada. Your appeal must be in writing, clearly marked Freedom of Informational Act appeal, and you should identify request records. The appeal may include facts and authorities you consider appropriate. So this is nuts. Access is denied to the FTD data that is responsive to your request, and the data is being withheld under exemptions that protect trade secrets and commercial or financial information obtained from a person that is privileged or confidential. Let's just move on. We'll touch on the 8 chart later in the video. EU could fall foul of global banking rules, regulators warn. The New York Fed digital dollar could speed foreign exchange settlement. Federal Reserve Bank of New York says central bank digital currencies could reduce FX transaction speeds up to 10 seconds to be exact from a 2-day process. Canada is seizing issuance of real return bonds effective immediately. As the global order changes, central banks are buying a record amount of gold. As economies come under pressure, leaders begin to point fingers. As currencies begin to collapse, geopolitical tensions start to rise. History does not repeat, it rhymes. This will be a ride. Speaking of gold, India is becoming a driving force in draining the world's silver warehouse stocks as Indian silver consumption is projected to surge to a record. We have unidentified sovereign gold buyers purchasing record amounts. The West is sleeping on metals as the East laughs. Bank of America, as the Federal Reserve remains firmly hawkish, investors are fleeing to the safety of cash funds at the fastest rate since the coronavirus pandemic. And finally, S&P cuts Credit Suisse group rating to 1 step above junk status. Bringing up Credit Suisse lately has just been a joke. Touching on last thing before we get into the charts, SEC charges creator of global crypto Ponzi scheme and 3 US promoters in connection with $295 million in fraud. Guess what? They probably made more than $295 million committing this fraud. So thanks, SEC. Let's get into the charts. Okay, so touching on the S&P 500 real quick, it is up 0.2% as I'm making this video, slightly green on the day, and we are getting mixed signals, but just know that from the peak to where we are currently trading at, the S&P 500 is down 22%, and usually with every other crash that you've seen, down 20% is basically catching the bottom. So even if we do have more room to fall, I think if this is a long-term hold for you, which it probably will be because it is an ETF, it is not a bad time to invest in my opinion. In fact, I will be buying more myself. Touching on GameStop real quick, it looks like the blue cycle is playing out to a little bit smaller of a T. However, red cycle, blue cycle, both cycles, we are hovering on the parallel line that GameStop basically never broke since the run to 500, and honestly, I think this is the lowest of the lows, and it's probably just a safe bet to have GameStop or have GameStop calls. I don't see much room for downside on GameStop, as well as AMC. Let's talk about it. So while I was just talking about GameStop, I forgot to add that not only do I not see much room for downside, but I'm also expecting a very large pop in GameStop in the near future. Again, we were supposed to see it. They halted the stock twice. It's just been a bunch of bullshit, but hopefully when this market falls, which I do think it will kind of copy to the 08, so that we technically have not seen a bottom yet, I think margin calls will occur, and that will be potentially one of our catalysts that cause AMC and GameStop to have their moves. But I wanted to touch on AMC real quick, as this $5.44 level, this $5.45 level has not been broken yet, but it is trying to fight that and break below. This is not going to be good if we do break below this. However, the only times AMC actually broke between these median lines, and the reason I'm saying these median lines is because I'm talking about $5.44, and then I'm talking about up here at $25.23, somewhere in that zone where the OBV indicator actually shows retail investors are still holding the stock. I find this super interesting because when we had the second run up to 70, we kind of correlated this with the same pennant, and then we got a break to the downside. But if you actually look at the median lines, whenever they break under, they only break under very temporarily. And you saw the same exact thing under this median line, and literally the chart played out the same exact way after that until we saw a major move to the downside. So even if we did break below this, I think it would be very temporary before seeing that big move higher that we've been waiting to get. So ultimately, I wouldn't be too scared, and I know a lot of you guys are just saying, you know, if AMC goes lower anyway, I'm gonna buy up a ton more shares. So really, I don't think any of us are worried, but AMC is hovering on the median line of this parallel channel, and the only time it's done that was back here. In about 2 to 3 days or so, we should see a big move one way like we saw back here. When AMC hovers on that median line, it either shoots up or it shoots down very fast, and we don't see this happen too often. Again, we saw it back here hover on the median line, and this broke to the upside, so we have 1, 2, and we're on that third section where it's actually hovering on the median line of the parallel channels. So this is what I got for you guys for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching. Smash that like button if you have not already. Hit that subscribe button. Get your 15 free stocks and free $10 cash coupon link down below and pinned in the top of comments. Share the video, drop a comment down below, and also drop a comment what number like you are. I love you all. Lottery Stocks out.